Hello boys and girls in Whiskey Land. My name is Sam Snead. This is Nigel Kelly.
Good morning.
We are coming to you from the House of Whiskey TV way down in New Zealand. And today we're here to talk about one of both of our favorite whiskeys of all time, Ardbeg 10-year-old. Nigel, what can you tell us about Ardbeg 10?
Morning everyone. Yeah, Sam, the Ardbeg distillery on the island of Islay really is one of our favourites. Not only the distillery itself, but the whiskies they create. This Ardbeg 10 is the culmination of 10 years work after the distillery was closed for many years and brought back to life by the lovely people at Moet Hennessy. And we thank them a lot for that. It really is that whiskey that has almost like no other, a cult following. You see people around the world with tattoos, hats, t-shirts, motorbikes, tractors, all emblazoned with Ardbeg. And it is that sort of whiskey that just does engender that phenomenal sort of cult following. Two things, it's from the island of Islay, and it is Ardbeg, not Ardbeg. That is like fingernails on the chalkboard to me.
Well, let's give it a smell and give it a go.
Man, you can as soon as you open that bottle, you pick up that huge whiff. As soon as somebody opens a bottle of Ardbeg, you can really tell there's something in the air.
It really does. It smells the room up, and a lovely smell, as a matter of fact. Now, what you're normally going to get from any Islay whiskey is, of course, going to be your big smoky, your big salty brininess. Yeah, that's all true. But what we want to do today is really get into the depths of this Ardbeg and find out what else is going on other than the obvious. And of course, again, that would be your big smoke and salty brininess. What do we think here?
Straight away, you get that big blast of smoke and peat that comes across. A little bit of seaweed. There's almost a licorice for me on the nose, like opening a box of licorice.
Yeah, and there's quite a bit of, it's quite sweet. Ardbeg is quite a bit of vanilla in there, hence that's going to be from your, if you take a look at that color, if you just look real close in there, it's got a nice light hue to it. That's going to be a dead giveaway that's been matured in American oak. Therefore, you're going to get some of those nice, big, strong vanillas. You're going to get a little bit of that like honeycomb in there. And then, well, let's go in and have a sip and see what we think.
By the way, slauncher. You know, it is one of those things with Ardbeg, Sam. There's got that beautiful fruit on the palate. We have so many people who come to our tastings and tell us they don't like Islay whiskies, and yet they try an Ardbeg and they're like, oh wow, that's actually really nice. And I think there's that amazing balance between the peat, the fruit, and the smoke that you get from Ardbeg, almost like no other on Islay, that makes it so popular.
There's a beautiful citrus note in there as well. Once you get through that vanilla and let it sit for a bit, you get through the alcohol, because keep in mind, this is bottled at 46%. It's non-chill filtered, which those two very crucial things in our opinion. Once you start taking it down below that 46%, and if you do chill filter the whiskey, you are stripping away some of those beautiful flavors in there. So we appreciate the fact that Ardbeg does non-chill filter their whiskeys and bottles it at 46%. It gives it a bit of extra pop, so to speak. And there's definitely some extra pop in this. This is an absolutely lovely whiskey.
It's beautiful and rich. And say again, that smoke is evident. You can notice the peat. Ardbeg has the highest peating levels of any of the distilleries on Islay for mainstream bottlings. 55 ppms. What do you reckon that comes across out in the glass though after we finish up the distillation process?
I'd say 35, 38. It's quite up there. Ardbeg is considered one of the highest or the most heavily peated malts. Sometimes Lefroy potentially will get regarded as the most heavily peated whiskey. However, with Ardbeg, there's Nigel mentioned a moment ago about the balance, and there is something. If you're not familiar with Ardbeg, they've got a purifier that comes off the spirit still. That purifier, what happens is as the spirit makes its way up the still and then crosses that line arm, it drops down into that purifier. The harder bits of that spirit are dropping down. They're going to drop back into that still and get regurgitated, redistilled, so to speak, and then the lighter spirits will cut across that line arm. So you're basically getting the best of the best. Ardbeg is considered by Mickey Heads, as he told us, about 20% is going to get redistilled. It's going to fall back down in that still.
I think the mathematical equation is 2.15.
I think that's what Mickey did say, basically. Yep.
There is, for those of you who've ever bought a bottle of Ardbeg, on the back of the bottle, the back of the box, sorry, there is a picture of the purifier there, but it is one of those whiskies that I think anyone who's into whiskey is going to have to make the pilgrimage to Islay and go and visit Ardbeg. Get off that ferry there at Port Ellen, you'll see a sign for Ardbeg 3 miles, you'll go past Lefroy, you'll go past Lagavulin, and you'll make your way to Ardbeg. It really is phenomenal. The 3 biggest, peatiest, smokiest whiskies on the face of the planet are all within a stone's throw of each other. But the Ardbeg for me, it always just over delivers in terms of what it costs and also what it delivers on the palate consistently over and over again, which is why, as I said before, it has that amazing cult following.
Yes, it's such a well-balanced dram. There's nothing, look, granted we're talking about one of our favorite whiskeys of all time, but there's just nothing bad about it. There's nothing that leaves you, there's nothing dirty on the palate. It's just so well-balanced. It's big, it's bold, it's rich, all these great things, but they're all true. I mean, there's a reason Ardbeg has such a great following, and that reason's right in the glass. So.
And it's an amazing place to go to. Very, very cold there. You can see by the colour there, it really doesn't pick up a lot of colour out of the wood, even after a minimum of 10 years in there. Just from a personal experience, I went for a swim at Ardbeg just for that picture, and I can assure you that the water there is very,
He's not
very
the brightest
cold.
boy in the world, granted.
But there was a bottle of Ardbeg on shore to get my heart started after we finished, and it was this lovely 10-year-old, which again, 46%. But what we are going to do is we are going to add a couple of drops of water to it just to see what happens, because for a lot of people 46% is quite big. And one of the things that the adding a little bit of water to this whiskey will do is reduce the alcohol content slightly, because quite often with some of these whiskies...
I'm going to add 3, I'm going to put 5 in for you.
Is that it can be so up in your face you can't actually smell anything. By knocking the alcohol content down a little bit, you can smell and taste a little bit more. And for those of you who do it at home, you'll notice when you do it that the whiskey splits slightly, and that was that thing that Sam was talking about, the non-chill filter factor of Ardbeg, and you'll see those long chain amino acids in the whiskey start to split. And it does sound like we're waxing lyrical about this whiskey, but it's very hard to find a fault in this particular whiskey.
Now, when you do add water, what it's going to do is going to bring that alcohol down a bit, and it's going to open that whiskey up. So when you go back in and smell it, the citrus notes really just come up and pop. It's a little bit more, I don't want to say more complex now, but it's open. It's like a flower. It's just that water's just opened up as it's brought that alcohol down. It's absolutely stunning. But just one other thing, adding water is a bit of a personal opinion. You know, I personally don't add water to my Ardbeg 10, but that's just me. A lot of people find themselves adding water. When we were at the distillery with Mickey Heads, he actually made quite a phenomenal comment when we asked him his opinion of adding water and adding. In fact, I think we were drinking Alligator at the time with him. And I asked him, what was his thoughts on adding the water, not add water, and he looked at me quite genuinely and said, well, Sam, I think this particular Alligator, it was a sample bottling, it was bottled at, let's say, 55%. And Mickey just matter-of-factly looked at me and said, well, someone's already added 45% water to it already, so why ruin it? So there you go.
And it was pretty funny with that with Mickey. But with this, you've added 5 drops to mine. It's now made it to the point where a lot of those big alcohols have actually gone away from it, and it's actually dangerously easy to drink. You could be drinking this, literally like water. And so
you almost said you could be drinking this for breakfast. And for us here in New Zealand, it is breakfast. It's about 8 o'clock in the morning, but no better way to start your day just quietly. Well, that's a phenomenal little whiskey, boys and girls. Now, an interesting little thing when you finish a good whiskey like that, the end of the glass. Always go in and have a smell of the glass, especially your big Islay malts and also the big sherry-styled whiskeys. What you'll find is the alcohol's been removed, nothing left, it's just stripped of the pure nature of what's in that glass. So you really can pick up the vanillas, and those citrus notes just come out as well, just with an empty glass.
So Ardbeg 10, obviously it's got 10 years old on it, so it's a minimum of 10 years old, 46% alcohol. It's a big peat, fruity whiskey. It really is a phenomenal balance between the peat, the fruit, and the smoke. And again, constantly amazed by the amount of people, particularly newer drinkers. I personally was put off smoky whiskies quite early on in my whiskey drinking career. But Ardbeg is one of those things for so many new drinkers. They taste it and they go, they might be put off by the smell because it really is quite big up in your face, but once they taste it, they're like, oh wow, that's actually really nice. So if you haven't tried Ardbeg 10, that's going to be something that you're going to need to do sooner rather than later. It is going to have to be part of your collection. I know for me personally, my house is never without a bottle of Ardbeg 10. It's one of those whiskies that at some stage or other I'm going to want to drink just because.
That's about. Well, otherwise, we'll sit here and we could talk forever about Ardbeg. Believe me, we've got plenty of other whiskeys. We'll do multiple Ardbegs as we go along. But please, if you want to know more about us, come check us out on our Facebook page. And again, thanks for tuning in to House of Whiskey TV. I'm Sam. This is Nigel. Thank you very much.
Just launch it.